how did you get the opportunity, I guess, really to do so many great things, and where did that come from, Ben?
It's always been a part of my personality. I've used this as a disclaimer, Kayla. I've always said that I'm kind of a jack of all trades, a master of none. And I had a friend recently say to me, there's a third verse to that saying. And I said, really, what's that? And he said, it's jack of all trades, master of none, better than a master of one. And it just totally changed my perspective on my own personal life, which is, I've always been someone that has thrived kind of being in chaos. I like to be involved in a lot of different things. And as a football player and a professional musician and a business owner and a philanthropist, these are all parts of who I am, my personality. And I've embraced it. Like, that's just something that is the makeup of me. And so it's been an incredible journey to have been on a Super Bowl championship team, to have played the number of years that I did in the NFL, and then to move on and to be able to do these other passions that I have in my life, and to really give and give and give. And that's just been, that's given my life a lot of purpose. And I'm really blessed to be able to say that.
I couldn't agree with you more, Ben. And speaking of blessings, I got to ask, which one of these endeavors has really blessed you the most? Where have you felt the most fulfilled?
Probably as a father and as a husband, to be honest with you. I'm a huge family man, and I married an incredible woman. She was the captain of the women's golf team at the University of Minnesota. She was a Miss Minnesota. She's an incredible mom. We have 4 beautiful daughters, and all of the girls are involved in sports and in music. And so primarily, that's probably the most value-based platform in my life as a husband and a father. But obviously, to make it to the NFL is, I think it's something that as players we can easily take for granted, because we grew up with a lot of talent and a lot of success at every level. But you don't realize how small of a percentage that is that make it to that level, and especially that make it onto a Super Bowl championship team, and especially tight ends that can catch passes from Peyton Manning, and then when I went to the Bengals and caught passes from Carson Palmer, so it's kind of a pinch yourself reality. It was a dream come true, and so those two for sure are the most special experiences that I've had in the past and currently have today.
So Ben, I got to ask, and most of our listeners know I have 8 children. So between us, that's 12 kids. We got a good solid dozen there, right? I'm always interested from expert parents, and at the end of the day, if you have more than 3, you're an expert at parenting, right? What is your parenting advice for all the dads out there watching this show?
Oh my gosh, we could have an entire show about this. It could last hours. I would say listen well and love intensely. And I think that especially being surrounded by 5 incredible women every single day, one of the greatest lessons that I've learned is the power of listening, and not just listening to their hopes or dreams or needs or expectations, but hearing them and internalizing, what their beliefs are and what their emotional intelligence is, and doing whatever I can as a father to support them in that, and then loving them. I think it's a powerful thing for me to be able to look at my daughters and to really express what love looks like, how a father should love his daughters, how a man should love a woman, and that's something I take very seriously, and especially if it's what's going to give them an example of how a man of integrity should be, because my ultimate hope and prayer is that they find men of integrity in their lives that they can have wonderful relationships with and And that's a responsibility that also sits on my shoulder. So I'm going to try to do my best. I'm going to fail a lot, and that's okay. And I think in those times of failure, it's important as fathers to be able to admit when they're wrong and to seek forgiveness and to be lovingly submissive in that way, because I think it sets a great example. And so I'm by no means am I perfect, but those are the values and the beliefs that I strive to live out as a dad every single day with these incredible women.
You're definitely a blessed man, Ben. Before we continue, and I want to talk about your book. I want to talk about your business endeavors, especially with the fitness centers and wellness, because obviously it's not just emotional health, it's not just physical health, it's not just spiritual health, it's the total package. But before I do, I just want to remind our listeners, first of all, thanking them for taking time out of their Tuesday night to catch this, but also just to shout out and mention we are powered by Sports Philanthropy Network, shouting out our sponsor tonight, Fame Supper Club and Fame Nightclub in downtown Chicago, graciously hosting the NFL RPFPC holiday party for the NFL alumni. Ben, tell us a little bit, please, about those business endeavors that you're involved in.
Well, it's been really exciting to take this journey through life after football, because you got to understand, like when you make it to that level, your whole life is a sport, right? So, you look at your career, and yes, there's an NFL career and a collegiate career, but then you go all the way back to when I started playing tackle football in 4th grade. And I think about this long journey that I've been on and how my identity has been so wrapped up in sports. And then to enter the real world as a 30-year-old and have to, in some ways, rediscover myself. And really my passion for business started with what I gained from being on that Super Bowl team in Indianapolis with the Colts, and from learning about the power of championship culture from Tony Dungy, right? So my primary business since I retired has been as a speaker and as someone, as a coach who can help organizations build the same type of chosen culture, championship, objective culture that improves people's performance. And I've taken that into every business opportunity and every business that I've owned. And so it's been exciting this last year to get into a couple of new companies, one that focuses on wellness and trying to take an approach to 360 degrees of that, to be the concierge of wellness, go to one place and to be able to have everything from chiropractic care to mental health care, and the list goes on, to being an owner in really an incredible corporate company called Conquer Ninja Gyms, which is based off of the American Ninja Warrior platform. And this is an incredible franchise designed to empower children, not only to become healthy and to become great athletes, but also to also experience a culture that thrives on teaching them integrity and empathy and wisdom and so many belief principles that help them to be better people. And so everything that I try and do in business comes out of that championship experience that I gained being part of an uncommon culture that Tony Dungy created in Indianapolis. And it's an incredible purpose, and I'm excited to take that and bring it into the corporate community. And it's been a joy to see how people have responded.
And so, Ben, speaking of an uncommon purpose, you were actually nominated for a Dove Award.
Yeah, crazy.
Well, I know you're really humble, but I'd love to hear more about that.
Well, when I retired, I was signed to a music label in Nashville, and I had music distribution with a company called Word Distribution in Nashville, and I was signed to Sandy Patty's label, and she's one of the most decorated female singers in music, and so I had an opportunity to do a number of albums. One of those albums was a Christmas album, and to my surprise, it was nominated for a Dove Award, which for Christmas Album of the Year. And that's the Dove Awards is kind of like the inspirational Grammys, if you will. And so it was a surprise, and it was humbling. And, you know, I think I've always enjoyed breaking stereotypes and showing people that football players can do more than just hit people on a field. And in my case, you know, I can hit notes. And so that's always a blessing to be able to share with people, and to show them that I'm not just a wannabe musician, but that I've had, you know, a lot of training, and it's become just a wonderful professional hobby of mine that I love to share with people.
So totally going to put you on the spot, but what's your favorite holiday song?
Oh man, well, I have a huge Christmas show here that we do all over Minnesota called An Andy and Bing Christmas, and it's the complete albums of Andy Williams and Bing Crosby, and 16-piece orchestra. It's a big show. It's wonderful. And probably my all-time favorite song to sing is "Oh Holy Night." And you know, my dad's a pastor, and I grew up in you know, the Methodist church, and we would always have these Christmas Eve services, and you would sing Silent Night and Oh Holy Night, and so it really comes out of, you know, very personal memories that I've had ever since I was a child growing up for this special holiday season that we're in. And so it's always very meaningful to sing that song.
So for whatever it's worth, that's also my absolute favorite. And I always tell my kids, when I hear that song somewhere, whether it's the end of November or the beginning of December, when I hear that song, that's when the holiday spirit hits me. And that's when I'm ready for Christmas. So I see you.
Yeah,
And you know, I'm going to ask you as we close this out, I'll give you a couple minutes to think about it and say yes or no. But before we end up at the 30-minute mark, I'm wondering if we can get you to sing a verse or a chorus just to hear your voice.
Oh my gosh. Jeez.
I'll give you time to think about it. I don't want to put you on the spot.
No problem.
Before we do that, I want to ask you about a couple other things that you're involved with, and that's brain health.
Yeah.
How did you get started in that, Ben?
Well, you know, sometimes, you know, the worst situations in life become your silver lining. And so unfortunately, my career ended due to multiple concussions, and I started having some cognitive issues, primarily with memory. And it really sent me into this world of understanding for the first time how radically important my mind is to the makeup of who I am. And when I moved back to Minnesota, I got involved with one of the most prestigious neurology groups in the world, the American Academy of Neurology, which is here in Minneapolis. And then I was on their public board, the American Brain Foundation. And that really took me, you know, all over the world as an advocate. It allowed me to testify in Congress with the NFL Players Association, and really to be a voice that was telling a message that I like to call pro-brain, pro-game. You know, I always wanted to take a position that celebrated sports, that celebrated football and all the wonderful things that it gave me, but at the same time, challenge culture with the understanding that this is a different injury, and it's one that impacts players and athletes in a unique way than any other orthopedic injury. This can have an effect on people's personalities, and so because of that, it was something that I wanted to talk about. But I always wanted to try to find that happy medium of talking about the importance of the brain, but also celebrating what the NFL gave me and you know, the game of football. And that's where the book came out of. And the book was really an emotional story that was very vulnerable, talking about fears, talking about realities of playing in a very rough game, but ultimately also celebrating the incredible life lessons that I learned while I was playing the game of football. And so there really is that balance that we can find, and I call it pro-brain, pro-game.
Ben, I love that. And I think it's such an important topic. On this podcast, we've had Kyle Offrey from when he was with Game Breakers. We've had Jeff Ogden, Doug Plank. Many of our guests over and over and over have talked about how concussions have impacted them after retirement. One thing I think we need to discuss, though, that isn't discussed enough, is there's this common misconception that all of the alumni have millions and millions of dollars just laying around. So healthcare and medical care shouldn't be a problem. Ben, can I put you on the spot and ask you to address healthcare as it relates to concussions for NFL alumni?
Sure. There are some realities that haven't really changed much over the years, and one of those is that 70% of all former athletes are bankrupt within 2 years after retirement. And there's so many reasons why that happens, and it's something we have to talk about. And so, there's a large majority of players that desperately need that health care, and I think because of the spotlight on concussions, we've been able to really grow in that area from a union perspective and from an NFL perspective, from a collegiate perspective, and really all the way down through high school and youth athletics, which is really important because, when you get into the NFL, you are an adult, right? And now the information is available. And so when you sign that contract, you really know what the consequences and the risks are with mild traumatic brain injury. But as a child, you don't. And so we have to have these things. We have to have legislation, and we have to have regulation involved in order to protect athletes at every level. One of the benefits that we continue to fight for is the health care of all players, current and former. And so the more we can continue to talk, the more the medical community can provide evidence-based information. I really think that we're going to continue to see growth in that. Even the NFL this last year, along with the NFL Players Association, created a new hospital network for players and funding that's gone into that in order to provide more support. So we are growing in that, and things are happening. And I think the more medical evidence that we gain out of the next 5-10 years, we'll continue to see those benefits rise as well. And that's something we have to fight for as players.
Yeah, and I'll be the first one to stand beside you and say, no matter how much money you make in a very short career span, losing your cognitive ability is something that money can't buy.
No, it's scary, when you're the only one at the table that doesn't remember a very significant event that everybody else does. And this is not a moment when you are, when you can kind of just chalk it up to kind of our human tendency to be forgetful at times, which we all are. But I mean serious moments that just don't exist anymore. You really, for the first time, begin to understand, how serious traumatic brain injury is, and the scary long-term effects that it can have on your personal life and on the life of the caregivers that you spend all of your time with. And so, you're absolutely right.
And then, speaking of quality of life and giving hope and possibility and opportunity to all athletes, I ask every guest on Legacy After the Locker Room to partner with me for my charity of choice, which is Special Olympics. Ben, can we count on you for an autograph donation?
Oh, of course.
Thank you so much. Any idea what it might be? Do you have something in mind?
Should I just donate? I should donate like a concert. I should do something instead of actually just paying my no. But I'd love to give financially and whatever I can do to help.
Ben, I'm so grateful for that. These are athletes who are doing big things and really, truly the heart of hope, the heart of possibility. I want to give you just a moment. I'm sure there are questions that I didn't ask you that I should have. I know our internet was wonky just from being at the restaurant and switched over to my phone. I'm sure our listeners who are watching could kind of see I went to my phone in between there to get better reception. But Ben, words of wisdom or thoughts that I didn't ask that I should have, what would you like to share with the Legacy After the Locker Room community?
Well, first of all, thank you for the opportunity to be a part of this. I mean, I think what you're doing and focusing on hope and inspiration is powerful, because, hope truly is one of those entities that really improves people's lives. And so I appreciate that. I would say from a piece, from a voice of encouragement would be to not be afraid to be who you are, and to to share your heart, to speak your mind, to do it always in love, and just allow yourself to grow. And you know, if you're open to those things, if you're open to being vulnerable, I think vulnerability is one thing that when I do executive coaching, we talk a lot about, because it's really hard for people to be vulnerable. But as a speaker, I always say that vulnerability equals connectivity. The more vulnerable we can be, the more we can share our hearts with people, the more we connect with them more deeply relationally. And that relationships is really what life is about. And so, I mean, there's a lot there, but that would be one of the things that I try to live out in my own life.
I think that's amazing, and really it is all about hope. So thank you for that. One question, and you know what's coming. Can we get the verse or a few bars from O Holy Night?
Well, O Holy Night is one of those songs where you kind of you really need some music in the background, but I could probably do a little Silent Night.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
That's an easier song to sing a cappella, so I can do that.
I hear you.
If I can stop blushing. All right, here we go. Silent night, holy night, all is calm, all is bright, round yon virgin mother and child, holy infant, so tender and mild, sleep in heavenly peace, sleep in heavenly peace. I don't know how that sounded coming over the computer, but
I'm wiping. I'm on camera wiping tears from my eyes. That is the reason for the season, and thank you for keeping Christ in Christmas, Ben. That was beautiful. I want to just take a moment, folks. Once again, thank you and shout out to Fame Supper Club and Fame Nightclub in downtown Chicago. Thank you to our Legacy After the Locker Room community. You can hear all of the NFL alumni and their guests coming in for the holiday party upstairs. We are powered by Sports Philanthropy Network, thanking our sponsor, Fame, here tonight with NFL Colts alumni, Super Bowl champion, by the way, Ben UTECH, reminding you to live your legacy. Thank you, Ben.
Thanks, Kayla.
I appreciate you so much. Merry Christmas.
You too.
Thank you.